Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 01 F-150 Prerunner build. I want to thank each and every one of you that has subscribed so far. Right now we're at a whopping 38 people. Now that's not a lot of people, but to me it's super exciting because that just means 38 of you want to watch me build this truck. This truck build has been a dream of mine since I was back in high school probably, and I'm 33 years old now, so it's been a long time. But I'm gonna build this truck regardless if I make these YouTube videos or not. But it's super exciting to me that I get to share all this with you and that some of you actually want to see this, come to fruition. Or maybe some of you guys want to see me fail. I don't know, but thanks for being a subscriber. As always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. This video is gonna be pretty, I'm gonna be doing a lot of explaining on what's happening. In the video, I did have some notes, so I will be looking down on my screen just to kind of help me stay on point so I don't rabbit trail all over the place. But again, I want to thank you guys for following along. And seriously, if you have any questions or any comments or anything, put them down in the comment section. I'll make sure to respond to everybody. So the first video that I really created was really just a photo dump of what has led up to this point so far. In this video, I do want to do a recap of everything that I've done so far. I want to talk about some of the challenges that I faced. I definitely want to talk about some of the next steps on what's to come in the near future with this truck. And at the end of the video, I'm going to throw in some clips of some of the videos that I've taken of me doing some work on this truck. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is probably the most obvious. Fiberglass one-piece front clip. It does have little mini fenders that go right there, but I don't actually have them in place yet. But I want to tell you why I chose the one-piece front clip over just the fenders. The fenders would have been much easier just to place in there. The reason I chose this is it really came down to shipping. So in order for me to get anything up here to Oregon from SoCal, which is where Fiberworks is located, I do have to pay for freight shipping. Now, if you're familiar with freight shipping, it's super expensive right now with everything that's going on in the world. I looked at the price of this hood was more expensive than the fenders, but if I was gonna pay that crazy shipping price, might as well have got the one-piece front clip, because in the end, it is gonna make things a little more convenient. If I ever wanna take the hood off, I'm gonna have just a couple pins, a couple in the front. I'm gonna lift this thing right off, set off to the side. I can do work on my truck, or I can even go run the truck without the hood, which is fine. So this hood is not perfect. It is a fiberglass front hood, or fiberglass piece. They make them for race trucks, which is why this is here. So if I was not gonna be running the windshield, then I would leave this in place. This would allow just kind of wind to hit that and go kind of like a rock guard, I guess, and a wind guard if I was not gonna be running the windshield, but I am. So I think it's been pretty cool that they actually give you a little liner here where this actually needs to be cut. That little line lines up with this little piece of trim. Now, if you can see in there, this won't set all the way down because of that windshield wiper. So once I cut this back, that should hopefully line up with that little plastic guard. Then this will sit down in place. It'll make it so then I can actually mount the side fenders. Let me bring up another little point here. There will need to be some adjustments here. Like, it doesn't fit perfectly. One of the things that I am gonna be doing is I'm actually gonna be cutting a good portion of this off. So I'm following this little line to here, and I'm gonna be coming up to this little line here. So I'm actually gonna be cutting all this off right here, just to create a different shape in the wheel well, because my wheel is gonna be sitting like right here somewhere, and it's not gonna look right with this wheel well that they have here. So I'm gonna be making some modifications to that. So you might be asking yourself, why would you get this fiberglass front clip when your suspension's not done, when your truck's not done, when you still have so much to do still? Well, the reason why is because this is all new suspension. That was not there before, right? The mounts are different. The placement of the wheels is not going to be exactly where the other wheels, the stock wheels, were. I believe this set is about 2 inches forward from the stock wheels, so I don't have any clearance issues later. I want to make sure that I keep my wheels in this area right here, and that's why I was saying I'm going to cut this right here. That'll give me a new wheel well design, essentially, or a new location for my wheels. It'll just look better from the outside looking at the truck. that is the fiberglass. If you have any questions about it, again, shoot them in the comment section. I'll go ahead and answer those questions, whatever you have. This thing's actually pretty sweet. So I do want to talk about the beams. You've seen the beams plenty in the previous videos, and I just want to talk about the fact that they're not my design. I actually got the design from a company called DIY Off-Road. They make a ton of CAD designs for a lot of different product, I-beams, cross members, rear ends, a lot of different stuff. If you're interested, go check out their website. But I did get their beams. These are what's called a universal long travel beam. They are roughly 91-inch wide kit. They basically give you the designs for the beam. They give you all the cut files so you can either cut it yourself on a plasma table if you have one, or take it to somebody that has a plasma cutter and then cut it for you. But it makes it super easy for someone like me that is doing this all at home. Since this beam is a universal beam, it's designed to go on any full-size truck. It does have some caveats with it. Since it is universal and is designed to go on many different trucks, you are going to have to adjust it or modify it to fit your truck specifically, your vehicle. I did have a couple issues with this beam that I had to correct, and I'll kind of talk to you about those right now. On this beam, you see this top piece right here. The instructions that come with the CAD files basically tell you how long to make this part, this upper piece right here. They also kind of warn you that you might want to leave it a little longer just in case you have to modify it for your own specifications. Some of those modifications that you'll have to make are due to the fact that you might have a different ride height than somebody else that uses the exact same beams. For me personally, I want to have this truck ride as low as possible while still having a lot of up travel. Right here where it sits, this will be about ride height right here where the truck sits now. It's probably about it's a 3-inch lift, call it 3-inch lift from stock, so it's not very big, maybe even less. And I still have a lot of up travel. I think I have about 13 inches of up travel right now, so that's still pretty good. And I'll probably limit it to about 10 inches of up travel later once everything's in place. So when I had the beam on the bench, I looked at it and I thought that I was going to have too much positive camber. So if you look at the wheel, this is 0 camber, this is negative camber if the wheel's leaned in, and this is positive camber if the wheel's leaned out. So I looked at it on the bench and I'm like, man, this is gonna have too much positive camber. So I did something dumb and I ended up cutting this super short because I thought I was gonna have too much wheel sticking out. So I thought, okay, well, if I cut this a little shorter, that means that this high can go in further, and that means I can bring it in. Well, once I put it on the truck, I realized that I actually have more negative camber than I really want. I actually want more positive, so I want it to be somewhere in the middle. I want about 1 degree in, and right now when I had it done, I had about 5 degrees, or even 10 degrees in. It was quite a bit. So there's a couple ways that I could fix this. A, I could cut this tube out and reinstall a long one, which is something I did not want to do whatsoever. B, I could pull these out all the way. I actually have this one pretty extended, and this is how much I had to push it out just to get it to align correctly. But to me, that's quite a bit. Like that means that the heim's only in about an inch from there versus like 1.5 inches or 2 inches. And I want more of this heim in the tube to have more support, because if you don't have enough heim in that tube, it's going to be a lot of leverage. It can just rip out. So that's option number 2. I didn't like that option. Let's see, what else was the other option. The other option was to recreate the uprights, call it the spindle if you want, that connects to these two pieces that actually holds the wheel. I could recreate that and add more angle to that. If that was a big process, I didn't want to go that route. So before I recreated my spindle, which was another option, I ended up going with a different mounting bracket. So if you look at this mounting bracket here, you'll see there's 1, 2, 3 holes. Well, the original mounting bracket that I made for these was actually 4 inches longer than this. This was also one of those files that came from DIY that goes with this kit. But again, comes with those caveats. You have to make those adjustments yourself. Once you start mounting things, you have to measure and check everything to make sure it's gonna fit for you. And for me, that wasn't gonna work. So What I ended up doing was I ended up taking that file, I ended up adjusting it myself and made this temporary kind of a mock-up bracket. Here you're gonna see there's 1, 2, 3, like I said, and I played around with it on the lowest one. When I put the beam on this hole, it actually, what it ended up doing was the tire was laying down like that. Because I brought the other side up, it pushed the beam out a little bit. That's what happened on the third hole. I still had about 5 more degrees to go, so what I did was I made the 2 other holes, I put it at the top hole, and what that did is it pushed the tire all the way out to about 2 degrees of negative camber, and that's with the Heim all the way in place. So now that I only have 2 degrees of camber, I can actually use the final adjustment with the Heim, which means I'm only going to be about a 1/4 inch of Heim sticking out versus, you know, a total of 1 inch sticking out. So it's a much better improvement. It was the best improvement I could have made and the easiest fix to my camber issue. So I think that was a pretty good option rather than having to cut this apart or recreate the spindle. My biggest concern with making these short was that they were going to bind in up travel position, but since I removed the cross member, I got so much room or so much space of up travel. There's not gonna be an issue. So this is where it's gonna live. So now that I know that, I can just remake the new mount, and it's gonna be a lot shorter. So we're only gonna use that upper hole, and it's gonna be a lot shorter piece. So that's pretty cool. And that's my solution there. Another one of the things that you want to think about when you're setting up a beam kit like this is your caster angle. So get one of these, and what I understand as caster is, I'll show you here, you see how this beam, instead of being straight, it's got a pitch to it. That pitch is there intentionally. That pitch is only supposed to be a 10-degree angle from vertical. We'll wait for that to finish. That angle is 16 degrees, which is way too much degrees. We're gonna have some issues if we leave it at that angle. So let's talk. Let's have a talk about this. We definitely don't want to leave this like that. We're gonna have issues. We're gonna have some serious issues. So I got a little cheat sheet here that helps me with this. So having it back like this is considered to be positive caster. So if I have it tilted back, that's positive caster. Going straight up and down is neutral caster, and going forward is negative caster. So negative caster is a bad thing because it makes your front end feel really light, like you have super power steering. But the problem is when you try to drive straight in a straight line, the car is going to want to meander quite a bit. Neutral caster is an improvement to negative caster, but most auto manufacturers nowadays set up their cars with some positive casters, so everything gets leaned back a little bit. The reason they do this is because when a car is driving down the road, you can let go of the steering wheel and the car is going to drive straight. So with positive caster, it allows your car to drive easier in a straight line. It does actually make your car a little harder to steer, but with the invention of power steering, that's not even an issue nowadays. This truck will have power steering, so I'm not that worried about it. The average stock car has about 5 degrees of positive caster. That's what I read. So if I'm wrong, put it in the comments and correct me. This truck, because it is a beam truck, typically beam trucks have a little bit more caster just because they have more travel in the suspension. And more caster change when they're going through the suspension cycle, that you don't want to go into negative caster. So I'm going to put 10 degrees of caster in my suspension here. So hopefully at full bump I will still be at, like, let's say 1 degree of positive caster. You know, hopefully we never go into 0 or anything more than that in the negatives. All right, so here are the radius arm brackets. Right now they're not welded to the beam yet. They're just tack welded. I got a tack there, tack there, tack there. So they are just tack welded to the beam. I did this on purpose because I had a feeling that I was gonna have to make some adjustments to this, and I didn't want to have them fully welded and then have to remake them because they didn't fit correctly. So In hindsight now, I'm really glad that I didn't weld everything because I do have to make these adjustments. I need to take some material off the bottom of this to bring the bottom of the beam this way and the top of the beam that way. So that way. So what that means, this needs to get longer, which is not going to happen because I'm not going to add metal to that. Or this needs to get shorter, and this is the route I'm going to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to measure how far that has to go forward. Let's say it has to go an inch, or let's say 1/4 of an inch for me to get the correct caster angle on the meter. So if it has to go forward, let's say 1/4 inch, and then it has to come back 1/4 inch, then we'll take that, maybe that's, we add that up, that's 1/2 inch. So we'll add that here. So basically I'll look 1/2 inch back, will be right around here, and then I'll put it on my belt sander. I'll sand this part down evenly, so that way it allows me to move it back. Now, those are just made up numbers. I'm not sure if that's how much I'm gonna have to take it back, but that's how I'm gonna solve my caster issue. Once I figure out the caster angle on this side, I'm gonna do the exact same on the other side, since that one has about 16 degrees of caster as well. So that's what I'm gonna do, and hopefully that fixes that issue. If not, then I will just remake these to the correct caster. The beam was designed to have 10-degree caster with this mount when this was at a perfect 90-degree angle from the ground. The problem is that the radius arm mount sits a little lower than the beam at ride height. So this does not sit at a perfect 90-degree angle, which throws off my caster angle. Alright, so as a recap, there's still a few things that I have left to do to kind of get things more permanent. I still have to finalize the beam brackets. I gotta finish trimming this up so it fits in place, so I can get the final wheel radius, so then I can actually position this beam where I need to. I need to adjust my caster angle to get exactly 10 degrees of caster. And then, like I said, I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put this tire still. So since I haven't figured that out, I haven't actually mounted the cross member in the truck, the radius arm cross member. The radius arm cross member in my case is not mounted because I am going to be running center mounted radius arms, and I'll show you what that means. So normally with these radius arms, they actually go back and tie into the frame, but for me, that radius arm, this radius arm is going to the center of the truck, essentially making one huge A-arm. That one goes back, they go to the center of the truck. That cross member back there, it looks like it's falling over. But it's also going to be my transmission cross member as well. The problem with mounting it right now is that I'm not going to be using this motor and trans in this truck. So I don't want to mount it permanently yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out where I want these to sit exactly. And once I figure out where I want these to sit, then I'm going to temporarily weld up that cross member in place, so then I have some structural support, because I really want to get this truck on its own weight. Once I have this where I want it, and I have that cross member in its temporary position and it's welded, partially welded up, then I can start focusing on making, and this is the next step in the process, making my coilover supports or brackets here. But once I make the coilover mounts, I can then start trying to figure out my cage design up here. All right, so what's coming up? I really want to get that front end on its own weight, like I said. I'm going to have to start bending some tubes here in the near future, and I'm going to have to start building that engine cage. So my plan for that is going to be to pull that motor in trans, and I'm going to put that LQ9 in temporarily so that I can make sure that I'm building the engine cage with enough clearance on either side to get the motor in and out, so I don't accidentally trap myself. So stay tuned for that. If you have any questions about anything that I covered so far, or anything that I talked about, please leave it in the comments. If there's something you don't understand, seriously, just put it in the comments and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. As always, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one. See ya. Peace. I want to bring you guys down to my little chemical concoction. So in this bucket is white vinegar, and what I do is I put all my pieces that are going to get TIG welded, all the pieces that fit in here anyways, that are going to get TIG welded, they all go in there. I let them sit there overnight and basically soak in the white vinegar. That gets rid of all the mill scale. So it gets rid of all, like, see that dark layer? It gets rid of all that. And once I take it out of the white vinegar, I'll rinse it off with just water, wipe it down with some alcohol, and then I'll hit it with the DA sander. It'll get nice and shiny, and it'll be prepped for TIG welding. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. I'll do a little time lapse of that. All right, and that's it. That's what it looks like when it comes out, just all nasty. But I'll show you what it looks like after I clean it all up. It looks pretty nice.